Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Reporting. Coming up on today's show, some Raiders draft intel was leaked. And if you didn't see what the leak was, I'm telling you right now, you're going to feel really good about this Raiders regime. Also, the Denver Broncos, they wanted the player that the Raiders drafted. I'm going to tell you who that player was. If you haven't seen my Panda Sups wedding stack, I can't wait to show y'all what this one is because I've been getting asked, Mitch, what are you using from Panda? And then John Spytek fooled this NFL Insider, and I am so happy that the Insider was able to say, you know what, Spytek, I see you, and I respect your game. Let's first, though, go into the draft intel leak. This is coming in from NFL Insider Jeremy Fowler, and he said, based on blue-chip players available, Ashton Jeanty was clearly the best option for Vegas at number 6. But some around the league who know GM John Spytek and Coach Pete Carroll were really mildly surprised. Rashaad Penny, number 27 overall in 2018, was the only first-round running back taken during Carroll's Seattle tenure from 2010 to 2023. The Bucs never drafted a day one back during Spytek's run there from 2016 to 2024. The Raiders saw Jeanty as simply different, a true tone changer. When I see those quotes from Fowler, and I know there was a lot of smoke around what the Las Vegas Raiders could potentially do at pick number 6, but for the Raiders to do what they did, and again, I have a lot of confidence in Pete Carroll. He's been able to build a lot of special teams in Seattle. He didn't do it really, though, by drafting a running back at number 6 overall. You look at what John Spytek did in Tampa Bay. They didn't do it by drafting a running back in round 1. What I sit up here and I go is this. The Raiders all along knew that if Ashton Jeanty was there on the board at number 6, that was going to be the guy that they were going to go get. And they did that because that's how confident they were not only in Jeanty as the player, but in Jeanty as the man, because we're trying to build something, and you need those type of players in your building. Fowler also had this to say. Then they traded back twice on day 2, moving picks 37, 143 to Miami for number 48, 98, 135, then sending 48 to Houston for 58 and 99. Spytek and the Raiders decided to stay open-minded on trades, knowing two things. Needs along the roster were prevalent, and day 2 was the strength of the draft. Getting 3 third-round picks was crucial. I, during the whole draft process, continuously said, first off, that I do think Spytek and I think, honestly, very similarly, but I also said I am team trade back, and I was team trade back because I saw all the value in day 2 especially, and that was kind of the area that I wanted the Raiders to try to figure out a way to accumulate some of those more picks. So when you look at the Raiders' day 2 picks, like, I knew how heavy this draft was, and the top 120 was the number that I continuously said. And I think by the Raiders trading back, they were able to add a Jack Bech starter, a Darian Porter starter. I don't think Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant are going to start this season, but those are 2 players that are going to be very critical of having the depth that we need on offensive line to ensure that the player that we drafted at number 6 is always going to work. So I do have a question, and this is going to be the pinned comment here on today's show. Out of the players from Darian Porter, Jack Bech, Charles Grant, and Caleb Rogers, which player out of that group do you think is the most important? Because to me, out of that group, in terms of the picks that I think are the most important this year, I think Darian Porter is going to be number 1. I think Jack Bech is going to be number 2. I think Charles Grant, Caleb Rogers is honestly like a 3A and a 3B overall. I love all these picks for the Raiders because they make sense to me. They make sense for the long term. But all I think Fowler is simply reporting there is Ashton Jeanty was always going to be the pick at number 6, and that the Raiders had a plan going into the draft that they were going to trade back. And I also say that because how many people remember before day 2 even started, the Raiders went out and they released 6 players. They cut 6 guys because I think that they knew that they are going to add some more bodies to the draft, because going into the draft, we were only going to have 9 picks. Then we obviously ended up finishing that with 11. Spytek clearly had a plan, and it was to add more bodies, fill more holes, but we had to do that because we were going to go get the best player on the board in Ashton Jeanty. Coming up next here on the show, the Broncos wanted this Raiders player. So the Silver and Black drafted somebody in the 2025 NFL draft that Denver had their eyes on. And here's the other really cool part about when you're hearing a lot more of these ESPN leaks about the draft. The Raiders stole Darian Porter from the 49ers. The Raiders stole Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant from the 49ers. It also sounded like, a guy like Jaden Higgins was stole right before the Raiders. That was a guy that they were looking at. Could have been one of the reasons why they traded back. When you see the player that the Broncos wanted, I think we're going to sit back and go, you know what? The Raiders did what the Raiders felt they needed to do in those situations. And think about how many mock drafts we've done, right? And every single mock draft is different. Every single draft is different. When you see the whole picture of how the draft was going to end up unfolding, the Raiders took the players that they wanted because they knew that they weren't going to be available the next time they were on the clock. So I'm a man that likes to make deals. Let's make a deal right now. And I know I'm not live, but let's make a deal. If you laugh at what I'm about to show you, and you're not subscribed to the Raiders Report, you have to hit that subscribe button. You have to turn on those notifications, and you got to be ready to pull up when we go. So since we're talking about the Broncos, I did just see, actually, that the Broncos are releasing a brand new logo. I don't know if it's going to be featured on their helmet or if it's just going to be featured on their home or away jerseys. But if you laugh at the new logo, then you got to hit that subscribe button because, quite frankly, I think this might be the best Broncos logo I've seen in a very, very long time. People that I know have already hit that subscribe button. Jaime Alvarado, Ant Ballin, Jeff Garcia, Gabe. Speaking of Ant Ballin, looks like that Broncos logo has some ballin' to it as well. Bottom line is we like to have a good time here. We like to heckle our Broncos people here at Chat Sports. And the fact that the Broncos wanted this player and they were unable to get him makes me a little bit happier because F the Broncos. Let's go to what Fowler had to say on Denver. Yes, the Broncos considered moving up in the first round for running back Ashton Jeanty. They called around to teams picking in the top 10, but the price simply would have been too heavy for Denver's liking per source. And the team eyeing Jeanty, the Raiders at number 6, was a division rival, thus not likely a trade partner. This obviously makes me like the Jeanty pick even more, and I think it's also showing like what these AFC West teams are trying to do. What did the Broncos do? They're trying to find a running back because I think they're also trying to copy what Philadelphia was able to do, and you go out, you try to build a really good offensive line, which is what Denver has. You're trying to build a great defense to try to take down the Kansas City Chiefs. What do the Chargers do? They go out, they get themselves an Omari and Hampton. They go out and get themselves a Jim Harbaugh to build that Philadelphia Eagles style of team, to be a physical team. Why? To try to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And when you see that all three of those teams are doing that, it's because they know that there's a way to beat Kansas City. It's not going to be easy, but you got to do it by winning in the trenches and not trying to go out there and getting in a shooting match with Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes is going to win that more times than not. I would admit this. I would have taken the call from the Broncos, not to say like I would have made the trade, but just to see what they would have offered. Because you're telling me if Denver would have offered you, I don't know, 2 first-round picks in 2026, 2027, obviously I don't think that would have been the case, especially for a running back, but you'd be crazy not to at least consider the offer. And I think you'd also be crazy to not hear what your division rival is thinking, especially if it's a player that you personally are really high on. Coming up next here on the show, if you guys didn't see what John Spytek did to this NFL Insider, like this picture I think is worth 1,000 words, because John already has shown this offseason that he is a very smart general manager. And I always have used the term, some guys are playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers. Spytek seems like one of these guys that's very well respected in NFL circles, and he got a little bit of a tip of a cap, and I'm proud of that. He got a little bit of a tip of a cap. I'll tell you what this is in just a moment, but again, huge shout out to our sponsor here, Panda Sups. Use code GENTY for 25% off at pandasups.com. I have been using these products for many years now. Panda Sups has been a part of this, but usually when I go through football season, I add some weight, and 15, 20, 25 pounds. It's not hard to do when you put down the amount of Happy Dads, boots, all that stuff that we do. But also, I am somebody that prides myself on being able to show up ready to rock and roll every single day. It's what we do here at the Raiders Report. And a lot of the products that Panda Sups has, it helps me do that. Now, my wedding, crazy enough, at the time that I'm filming this video, is 28 days away. And I've been trying to get in my best shape because I want to be the best version of me for my future wife, Alex. So the products that I've been using from Panda, their protein, their BCAAs, their creatine, and their Cuts fat burner has really helped me transform my body. Here's the thing, though. Your body's probably different than mine. Everybody's a little bit different. I will say you got to find the products that work for you. Like Alex, she loves the greens, which you can get right over, it's the far left one. The greens, they really help out. The pre-workout for people that maybe need that extra little bit of a juice to get up. When I used to work out in the morning, I had to take pre-workout. Now that I do it after work, I'll be honest, I don't have to do it as often. If you're somebody that needs to go to bed and you have a hard time shutting your brain off, use the Sleepy. Alex is a big fan of that. My point is Panda Supps has products for everybody out there from the nation. And if you spend over $100 by using code GENTY at pandasupps.com, we're also going to hook you up with a shaker and a bag that's going to come in your order from Panda Supps. So let's get into what John Spytek did because he fooled Todd McShay. I don't know if y'all remember before the draft, Todd McShay went up on TV and he said, the Las Vegas Raiders will not draft Ashton Jeanty at pick number 6. When that report came out 48 hours before the draft, I know I wasn't the only one going, oh man, that's interesting. Does that mean Jeanty is going to go off the board before, or does he know something that we don't know? Because, I was the person that was saying, if I was a betting man, I believe the Raiders are going to take Ashton Jeanty. I did an ESPN show, and it's on my social media if you don't believe me. I said if I was a betting man, I think they go Jeanty, but I would go Armin Membu. Todd McShay thought that the Raiders were going to go with Kelvin Banks, and he wasn't the only one. Vic Tafur, again, doesn't cover the Raiders anymore, but Tafur said, I think that they're going to go with Banks, and I think it's because Spytek was putting out smoke screens left and right. I mean, even think about Pete Carroll, his gifts that he were putting out. They were all smoke screens. But that's what good organizations do. Good organizations don't want you to know who they're going to draft at number 6. And the fact that Todd McShay tipped his cap to John Spytek, I think already goes to show how much respect Spytek has in NFL media circles. So this is what McShay had to say. I want to give a lot of credit, first of all, for the espionage for getting out the late leak that it was going to be Banks with the number 6 pick. John Spytek, I see you. Tom McShay doesn't have to do that. And in today's day and age, you don't get a lot of people that say, you know what, I was wrong. That's on me. You got me. And I think there's that respect level of it because I don't think that McShay looks at what Spytek did as being conniving and being oh, that's a shitty thing to do. I look at that as probably being you know what, that's a guy that's going to be willing to do whatever it takes to win some freaking football games, and I'm just happy that that guy is our general manager. Before we get on out of here today, I do want y'all to know, starts May 16th, Friday. Our Madden season is underway. Jeremy Chugs and I will be live Wednesday, May 14th for the NFL schedule release, and I don't know what times are going to be live yet, but we will be live a little bit earlier in the day. I know a lot of people have enjoyed our Madden live streams, and we're going to be doing them on Friday and Monday this upcoming year. So please hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and if you're a sicko like me in the middle of May and you're going, bro, I can't wait for Raiders football, I'm going to do the best way that I possibly can. We're going to have some fun. We're going to treat this like real game day atmosphere. It's kind of like I would say our preseason at the Raiders Report. So if you want to watch some Madden streams, you want to get a little bit wet and wild, definitely make sure you're subscribed and make sure that you're ready to go May 16th because it's going to get wild here on the show.